Hello and welcome. Designing a Better World, Empathy, and Inclusive Design. This is an on-demand video content for Design for Change UX Challenge for Climate Change. My name is Dr. Steven Fernandez, and I'll be your facilitator. In this video, we'll look at the importance of empathy and inclusion in design practice. Global climate change brings complex ecological and humanitarian challenges. As designers, we need to be mindful of how design solutions can exclude users from marginalized communities. When we participate in the design process, we need to ask ourselves, how might we approach empathy as a pathway towards making our design solutions inclusive of and accessible to a diversity of users? Here's a case scenario for your consideration. Alice, her partner, and their 10-year-old daughter live in a small apartment in an impoverished part of a wealthy city. Alice's partner works 2 minimum wage jobs while she stays at home to take care of their daughter who has a disability. To reduce the city's hydro utility levels, the local government requires households to track their hydro utility through a digital hydro app that is only accessible on a smartphone. Households that exceed the monthly hydro quota will get a $500 fine. But neither Alice nor her partner has access to high-speed internet and a smartphone for downloading the digital hydro app. As designers who aspire to change the world, what would you do to address the problem described in the case scenario? Which option out of the 3 options on the right would you choose? Would you choose option A, make assumptions about Alice and their family's experience and needs? Would you choose option B, speak with Alice and her family to understand their experience and needs? Or would you choose option C, which is to call a friend to ask for help? Speaking with users to understand their experience and needs can deeply inform the user research, ideation, and design prototyping processes. As designers, the attitude that we adopt when speaking with users can affect our perception of the issues, or what we call pain points, that users are grappling with. But how should we proceed? Here's where empathy and inclusive design become important. If we agree that, number 1, designers need to be empathetic to the needs and experiences of low-income families and people from marginalized populations. Number 2, designers need to adopt inclusive approaches towards the development of appropriate design responses to design problems. Then the question becomes, how might we empathize with the user's pain points and needs? What is empathy? The dictionary defines empathy as the feeling that you understand and share in another person's experiences and emotions. That means to say, the ability to share someone else's feelings. In order to empathize with users' pain points and needs, we need to understand how technology can exclude certain users. Take, for instance, touchscreens. Touchscreens have replaced many in-person services that used to be performed by human beings. We see this in automated systems that interact digitally with users, at self-service kiosks, and digital apps on smartphones. While these touchscreens may seem convenient for everyone, they can be inaccessible to people who cannot see or touch the screen due to disability, injury, or illness. Furthermore, people who cannot afford a smartphone and wireless data connectivity will also be excluded from any digital service that's delivered through touchscreen technology. We need to understand the inequities of design. And we can identify these inequities by looking at designs that do not match users' needs and experiences. User experiences of design do not occur on an equal playing field. Instead, users experience every design differently. These experiential differences are shaped by expressions of power in our society. How can we make our design solutions inclusive and equitable? So what is inclusive design? Now, according to the Inclusive Design Research Center at Ocad University, inclusive design considers the full range of human diversity with respect to ability, language, culture, gender, age, and other forms of human difference. But inclusive design does not mean creating one design that caters to everyone in society. The University of Cambridge's Inclusive Design Toolkit states that inclusive design guides an appropriate design response to diversity in the population. Inclusive design is not about designing a single thing for all people. Inclusive design is meant to open up a diversity of ways for people to participate in the use of the design. And in doing so, inclusive design fosters a sense of belonging between users and the product. So inclusive design entails the development of appropriate design interventions that respond to the diverse needs and lived experiences of users. Here are the dimensions of inclusive design. We need to begin by first recognizing the interconnectedness of users and systems, whereby a design for one user or a group of users in a particular context could also be applicable to users in a different group. We need to recognize and understand how the design can be interconnected between different users and in different contexts. During the design process itself, we need to consider inclusion, how inclusive our processes are, how inclusive the tools are. We need to seek diverse perspectives during that process to encourage diverse participation in learning about user groups and also creating diverse possibilities for users to participate in the design. We want to make our design accessible to as many people. So we need to recognize diversity and uniqueness in our users. We need to empathize with their unique challenges while also recognizing that the challenges faced by one group might also be faced by a different group in a different context. So inclusive design is multifaceted, it's interconnected, and we need to understand all these dimensions as we work to be more empathetic towards the needs of our users. If we want to build a better world and design solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change, we need inclusive design. And we can approach inclusive design through empathy as we attempt to understand the pain points, needs, and interests of each user. Different cultures may understand empathy in different ways, but the purpose of empathy is broadly similar. That is to share the feelings of another person. As we seek to empathize with each user's lived experience and needs, we should turn away from one-size-fits-all solutions and move towards one-size-fits-one solutions. Here's where empathy mapping can be useful for inclusive design. We can begin by listening to the user's pain points, what's troubling them, what's frustrating them as they're interacting with the current design solution. We can learn about their interests and their goals as they're interacting with the current design solution. And during our user research, we can look at what the user says, how they talk about the design solution, the kind of words they use, the kind of expressions they use when talking about it. We can also observe the behavior of the user as they're interacting with the current design solution. The kind of gestures that they do can also be really informative in terms of learning about how the user feels about the current design solution. We can also dig deeper to understand what the user thinks about the current design. To learn more about empathy mapping, I'm providing a link to an article that talks about empathy mapping and also a template that you can use. But before we look at some of the references and resources that you can use, let me conclude by presenting some of the key takeaways from this video. We want to create one-size-fits-one design solutions. And to do that, we need to ensure that our design solutions fit the needs of users who face the greatest difficulties with current design solutions. Identify such users, speak with them, and try to understand their unique situation and experiences. Users like Alice and her family. Learn from users' expertise with thoughtful observation and inquiry. Remember that good design requires good user research. And then we can consider how we can extend the one-size-fits-one solution to people who face similar difficulties on permanent, temporary, or situational basis. And finally, we can create diverse ways for users to engage with the design solutions. For a user like Alice and their family, we could create diverse ways for them to participate in the tracking of their utility without forcing them to have a smartphone or wireless data connection. And here's a list of references and resources that you may wish to consult. The first is an article on empathy mapping and how you can use it. The second, of course, is a dictionary definition of what empathy is. The third is an inclusive design toolkit, which can be really, really useful for you if you're considering inclusive design in action. And this is from the University of Cambridge's Engineering Design Center. And finally, a really, really good resource on what we mean by inclusive design is by Ocad University's Inclusive Design Research Center. Thank you all for your attention, and I wish you the very best with this competition.